And it being on the heels of my memory of what happened to me and his motivation, that was really important to me. His motivation was seemingly quite pure, because he came back because of his brother. Anyway, but what I didn't like is I didn't like the response of the people or the pastor. And I'm not trying to pick at people here or the pastor. I love these people and I love the pastor. I still do. But what ended up happening is I saw that people wanted to hear what I would now call ear candy. Tell me about heaven. What did you see? What did you eye candy, ear candy? And they're missing the point. Everybody's looking at what they can see with their senses that they can explain on earth. And in the process, each person's missing the point, because heaven is not about really the music, as beautiful as it is the colors and the life and all the wonderful things that heaven provides. And Jesus talks a lot about that too, but heaven is about God and who God is and what Jesus has done so that we can actually go to heaven and participate in this. There's so much about heaven that isn't eye candy or ear candy. When I left this service about this guy telling his story, oh man, it wasn't that I thought the man himself was such an error, but look at the people. They're not ready. They don't even want to hear the truth. They just want to be tickled. I'm not in that kind of business. I'm not good at that, and I don't want anything to do with it. So when that experience was over, and I went back to God, and I said, wow, God, I can see why you had me here today or tonight. But wow, I'll tell the story if you want me to, but I sure don't want to. I would rather wait. And so I waited, and I got married, and I didn't tell my wife. That was hard. And I had kids, and I didn't tell my kids. And I went into the airlines, and I never told anybody. My grandfather died, and nobody knew. My parents, brothers, nobody knew until about 2009. It was 40 years later, and I couldn't sleep. I knew I had to tell this story. So I told my wife, and somehow God had prepared her for this experience. She had been prepared by God. I didn't know this, but she had been prepared by God apparently in advance. Because when I was ready to finally tell the story, she was like just pulling it out of me. And we went to a depth in our relationship that was really amazing. It's hard to describe, but we spent an entire evening where I shared way more than I told my grandfather. And she wrote it down. And I said, okay, now, but you can write this down, but only if it's just for our kids. That's right, just for our kids. No problem, don't worry. Okay, but she would ask the right questions, and they were deep questions. So she would write down. And then finally I felt like, I felt like a woman who'd given birth, I guess. Wow, that's over. I feel so good. That's done now, and there's life. I feel like I've unburdened myself with this story, and I gave it to my wife. And then it was all inscribbled like chicken scratch. And within a year, one thing led to another, and more nights without sleep and more prodding from God, the Holy Spirit, to where we put a book together. And I allowed this to be done because, number one, I felt like God was requiring it. And number two, that the proceeds, if there ever was a profit, that the profits would not come to me, that they would go to some good, worthy cause. And so that is that book, and apparently they're going to make a movie out of it. Apparently so.